Spot Migration President Will Foret joins us this week to discuss news from Sophos and the Bandwidth.com DDoS attack, plus a special guest interview with Ken Pecot, the brand new COO of the 20 on operational pain points and more. It's ChannelPro Weekly number 201, Killer Penguin Investigation. Hello and welcome to ChannelPro Weekly, episode number 201, a new era here at ChannelPro Weekly. I am Matt Whitlock, your host of the show, tech editor and online director here at ChannelPro. And this is a show that's for folks like the one sitting next to Rich. Rich is actually out on the road, but he's still here. So please welcome executive editor Rich Freeman.
Thank you, Matt, from deep in the heart of Texas.
Awesome. So Rich, this show I like to say is for who? Rich, who would you say it is if you were to describe the person next to you? Who is that man?
Well, I would say that is somebody, he is an MSP, he or she is an MSP, a VAR, a solution provider, an integrator, a system builder. They provide IT services to small and mid-sized businesses. Therefore, they are big fans of ChannelPro, and they are in the right place for this podcast.
They sure are, and we're glad to have them all. And even if that doesn't describe you, well, it might be time for a career change. Stick around. You might learn a few things as well. We are joined by a guest, as you just saw. Really excited to have him here. Back in 2012, he founded Spot Migration, a Chicago-based outsourced IT department that creates happiness for clients by giving them peace of mind with their technology. He also sits on the advisory board for the 20. It's important to know that for the reason why he's here. Please welcome Spot's founder and president, Will Foret. Welcome, Will.
Thank you for having me. I'm always happy to talk to you guys, talk to Rich, and answer any questions you got. It's always
awesome.
A pleasure.
Well, it's great to have you here. If you can, tell us a little bit more about you and what you do and kind of how you got to where you are now.
So what I do now is actually very different from what I did the past few years. I had a role change. So I have stepped away from operations, and I'm now more in a visionary sales role. So I actually have a boss because in our structure, we have an accountability chart, and I actually report to someone that's a sales manager. Yes, I'm the owner, but I do respect the lines. It actually makes things better for all of our people. It's a huge amount of trust that has been gained because of it, and it allows for people to make decisions without fear of reprimand. And what I do personally is I really help the team sort of figure out, innovate, and be able to be better in their roles. As far as what Spot Migration does about what you talked about, I think it's really the peace of mind aspect, and the ounce of prevention versus pound of cure. We believe that, and we do that through strategy.
Excellent. So you are also you're on the advisory board for the 20. You're a member of the 20, if I'm reading this correctly. So Rich, there's a reason why he's here, because you're at a 20 related thing. You want to tell us where you are?
Yeah, well, that's why I said I'm deep in the heart of Texas. We are deep in the heart of Texas. We are in Dallas, Texas, attending the 20's annual member conference. Current and prospective member conference, which is called Vision. So Vision 2021 is taking place just outside these doors as we record.
Awesome stuff. So, and what kind of things do they do at this particular conference?
So it's a mix of sort of vision statements about where the organization is and where it needs to be going. They bring in, so each year I would say there are certain disciplines or themes that Tim Conkle, the CEO and founder of the 20, is particularly focused on. And, he's been talking on stage this week a lot about standardization. So there's a lot of kind of operations related content going on here because it's important for people to, especially within the 20, to have standardized operational procedures. He's talking a lot about growth, and marketing is how you drive growth. So there's a lot of marketing related content that's being presented here. It's just a lot about getting people thinking about what they need to do to kind of fine tune the performance of their business and really kind of maximize their potential.
Interesting, fascinating. Are there any optometrists there? You think at a vision conference there would be some of those?
No, not that I've run into. And I certainly I'm wearing specs here. So is Will. would be great to have access to that on site, but no, I haven't run into that.
It'd be funny if there was like a confused sponsor like in their expo hall that was like, hey, I'm selling the latest in contact lens fluids, check it out. that'd be awesome. All right. So very cool. Well, Will, it's great to have you here. Great to have you on the show. We're going to learn a lot. We got an exciting show coming up, actually. We're going to talk a little bit about the news. We got a couple stories we're going to talk about. Sophos is in the news. We're going to talk about this bandwidth.com denial of service attack. Big thing going on there. We had a great interview also with another 20 person, the newly appointed COO of the 20 is going to be joining us later on for an interview. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And, we got a lot more ahead. So Rich, is there any other questions that you wanted to ask Will, or should we move along to the news?
I think we can move along to the news.
All right. Well, let's talk about Sophos. Sophos, they've linked Cloud Optics, a lot of optical things going on. We got the Vision conference. We've got optics here with Sophos. Are they getting into designer frames? Rich, is that what Sophos is doing?
No, you actually nailed it before. They're getting into lubricants for contact lenses.
It's a good business. Lots of contact lenses out there.
Yeah. No, actually, neither of the above. So just a few months ago, in May, as a matter of fact, on this show, we talked about the new extended detection and response, or XDR platform from Sophos. That was their entrance into what has become a very hot field. And the whole idea behind extended detection and response is to take the capabilities of an endpoint detection and response solution, which, as the name implies, is kind of focused on the endpoint, and extend it out across more of the environment. So you pull in telemetry from the firewall, from the email security system. You're looking more broadly across the business and correlating more information, which is going to help you find threats and respond to threats sooner and more accurately. And so what Sophos announced this week is that for the first time, they have integrated that XDR system with another product of theirs called Cloud Optics. Now, the original XDR platform had a component called Cloud Workload Protection, which provided sort of real-time defense from certain threats focused at cloud-based or cloud-hosted workloads. But Cloud Optics does something different. Cloud Optics, they call a security posture management solution. And so what Cloud Optics does is it looks at your software as a service, your infrastructure as a service environment, and just checks to make sure everything is set up in a secure way, that you have the right settings, the right configurations, and that there aren't indicators of compromise in those environments there. And so this new integration between Cloud Optics and XDR, which is the first of several that will be coming, this one is specific to Amazon Web Services. And essentially now the XDR platform will be importing a whole series of AWS metrics from Cloud Optics into that data lake, that sort of unified dashboard that is looking at all those other input sources as well, the firewall, the email, the endpoint, and so on. And so, these days, especially more and more of what SMBs and other businesses do is in the cloud. If you're really not focusing as much attention on those cloud-based workloads as you are on the more on-premises stuff and the physical stuff, you're really not getting a complete picture of how secure or insecure a customer is. And, again, they had that workload protection before, but adding in this element of the posture management is going to allow you to factor into the XDR system's analysis things like, did two-factor authentication just get turned off for some user on some system? Did configurations for an EC2 instance just get shifted? So now all of a sudden, it's permissible to move or copy the data or something, things which in isolation you might miss altogether. It's getting pulled into a single dashboard where you're looking at a lot of things at once, and also, again, correlating so that what might not appear like a really scary thing on its own suddenly starts to make sense in the context of these other things that are happening on the network and in email and so on. And so again, first of several integrations. They started with AWS, they're moving on to Azure and Google Cloud Platform down the road. But from a bigger picture standpoint, this is just Sophos really making sure to incorporate cloud 100% into how it does XDR.
So Will, if with something like this, would this kind of help make investigations faster? Or how would this help you improve the services that you offer to your customers?
So a few things. If anything, it gives you more information. So it's not necessarily faster. I think it would be more accurate because there's nowadays we have so much information that's flying at us. And as a provider, and if you need to be able to secure a client, you need visibility. You need to be able to see all the changes that are happening. So the reality is this is kind of a change management system on steroids. If you centralize all your data, it's going through to a central point, and then you're very intelligently looking at that data. You have your processes in place to be able to look at that data that's being given to you intelligently. You sort out the noise from actual IOCs, right? You can see when certain things happen, and especially if it's in a certain order. Well, you know that, well, was this an authorized change? Is there a ticket associated with it? Or was this an unauthorized change? And maybe something needs to happen because of it. There are so many places where if you don't have visibility, I mean, we know what's the average time that a company has been breached, or a bad actor has been they've compromised the system, and the bad actor has just been watching, right? Average is what, 6 to 9 months, even a year for normal companies. Why? Because when they are ready to strike, whether it's through ransomware or through extortion or through means of fraud, guess what? They have all the information there. They've already made those changes months and months ago, and no one's actually was looking at it. So it wasn't because an antivirus or an endpoint protection wasn't there. I bet you it was there, but they can't see those type of changes because that's not what they do, right? These are human elements that have been changed into scripts, into really, really fast formats, so that a compromised system goes from, completely inert node to, oh, I'm going to send out 2,000 emails from here in 2 minutes, and there's nothing you can do about it. So how do you prevent stuff like this? The logistics around the data that's coming in from essentially combining these systems, centralizing these systems, helps make smarter decisions.
It seems like this would create a lot of data, though, and it's a lot to monitor. Are they making it easy? Are they making it like scriptable so you can like set a certain events happens to alert you, or do you have to like monitor something like this all the time?
So this is workflow, this is process, right? And this is just centralizing all that data. It's becoming more intelligent around the decision-making process. There's a lot of information, but sometimes it's just noise, right? But sometimes that noise, that information that you're given, it on its own is not an IOC, but it will help if there is an IOC to track back to some of that information beforehand and go, oh, there was some data here related to the IOC. Now I can do my investigation because these two are correlated. So, and looking back then can help future causes and prevent the next IOC.
Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. What, Rich, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to point out quickly that the other, because you are right that for some companies, you can be overwhelmed with data from a system that collects this much data, but Sophos, among other XDR providers, has a separate managed security service. And so one option, if that's a problem for your organization based on its size or so on, is to kind of outsource some of that initial inspection so that the stuff that's getting to you really is worthy of your attention.
Interesting.
And complete disclosure, we do use Sophos products. We also use some others. So I'm familiar just in general of how those products kind of integrate with each other. And the more you can centralize those dashboards, the easier it is for an analyst to be able to make decisions. Essentially, the faster they're able to make decisions, right? Instead of having to flip through different dashboards, you have one dashboard. You can see the data that's coming in and be able to track it in one place. Flipping back and forth sucks, and it's also time consuming. Less button clicks, less noise, right? You have to make more intelligent decisions.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds like a really interesting solution. So, Rich, if you're a Sophos XDR customer, is there any cost to the MSP for utilizing the integrations?
No, not at all.
All right. No reason not to then, folks. Go check it out. We've got links at the show notes for episode 201. So if you want to learn a little bit more about this, we just kind of scratch the surface on what this is all about. So go to the show notes for episode 201, which means if you're on your phone listening, a lot of times the links are in there. If you're in iTunes, go to ChannelPro find the show sheet for 201, click the link there. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button there and leave a comment. It would be great. But also open the description area and we'll get links to these stories in there as well. Rich, moving on. So the other story that's kind of in the news right now is that some folks are having problems with VoIP services. What's the reason behind that, Mr. Rich?
You know, this is a really interesting thing because I haven't even, as we were recording this right now, I haven't even posted my story about this yet. I've been writing it during the show, between sessions and so on, because I didn't know this was going on until I got here. Actually, I didn't learn about it until yesterday, which was Wednesday of this week. So yeah, I think there are probably though a lot of people in our audience right now who know that it's been a very difficult week to be a VoIP reseller essentially for your customers, because there have been a lot of services slowdowns and services outages, and the reason for that is beginning last Saturday, a company that I had never heard of before. I'm guessing a lot of our readers and our listeners, if you have never heard of before, was hit by a distributed denial of service, a DDoS attack. This company is called bandwidth.com. A huge company, publicly listed company. They perform an absolutely vital function in the VoIP ecosystem. So, obviously VoIP itself is an internet-based communication service, but if a VoIP customer is going to call someone or receive a call from someone who has an ordinary old school telephone, there's got to be an interface between the internet and that old phone exchange. And Bandwidth is one of the biggest companies that provides that interface out there. Their customers include some familiar names like Microsoft and Google and Zoom and WebEx and RingCentral and 8x8, as well as some maybe also familiar names to folks in our ChannelPro audience here, like Citricom, the Unified Communications Company, BVoIP, Nextiva. Those companies all utilize Bandwidth as well. And so starting on Saturday, Bandwidth gets hit by this DDoS attack. Their service was severely degraded. Because there are all these VoIP companies downstream from Bandwidth, their service was impacted as well. And all of a sudden, MSPs are getting calls from their customers, I can't place a call. Or somebody's trying to call me and they're telling me that the phones are down or whatever, and nobody really quite understands what's going on, because what's going on involves a company that, again, nobody has heard anything about. Now, the folks at Bandwidth, from what I can make out, did a pretty effective job of dealing with this. And I should say this was not a one-time thing. It started on Saturday. And there was some back and forth on Saturday. The Bandwidth people kind of figured out how to fight off the attackers. Attackers came back the next day from a different angle with different technique, and there's been this sort of pitched battle going on. It was Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I think by yesterday, it looked like they pretty much had the situation under control, although who knows how long that lasts. And it's been a few hours since I checked their status page. This could happen again. So from my perspective, I mean, it's I think helpful for people who sell VoIP to understand what's going on and why it's happening, and the tiers and the layers in the VoIP ecosystem and how vulnerable any one of them can be. But I also think there may be some lessons to be learned here for what comes next, because think of Bandwidth basically as the colonial pipeline of telecommunications, right? Like the bad guys went over after colonial pipeline because they figured out that it's a high profile target. It's going to inconvenience a lot of other people. And if we can bring them down, we'll have a lot of leverage against them. Very similar story with Bandwidth. Bandwidth apparently supports, I think it's 40% of the VoIP traffic in North America or something like that. So you bring Bandwidth down, high impact attack, you have a lot of leverage. So even if Bandwidth has successfully fought these people off and this incident is done, this will happen again. And if it's not bandwidth, it'll be another one of these really big companies, hidden companies that kind of plays a critical role in VoIP traffic. And so as an MSP, I think you need to be talking to your VoIP vendor right now about, well, what do you do to shield yourself from these kinds of incidents? What kind of redundancy do you have in place? You know, what would you do if you know if you don't do business with bandwidth? You know, who do you do business with, and what happens if they get attacked? I'll go into this in more detail in my article, but I think this is a really important moment for anyone who sells VoIP, not to get out of the VoIP market because it's vulnerable and I don't want to do this to my customers, but to figure out how you can kind of minimize your exposure to these attacks when, not if, they happen again. And a lot of that is going to come down to making sure you're doing business with the right vendors.
Interesting. Will, any thoughts on the bandwidth.com attack? You don't always think about these sleeper companies in the background that are like critical to making all these other things work.
So the funny thing is that's actually really relevant to us as MSPs, right? We are, just think like a SAY attack, right? It's upstream. We're using their tools, we're using their services, and you know they're a major provider of some of tools that we use as a business. In the same way that VoIP providers, you know, their tools, part of their stack upstream is bandwidth.com, right? They need an interface to go between that physical equipment and the digital equipment, right? Legacy equipment and newer equipment to be able to communicate across really the globe. So I think one thing that we need to do is breathe, take a step back and be like, okay, just because this happened once, I would say it's more important to see what the reaction of each VoIP company is and how they handle the situation. They might not have been prepared, right? In the same way that a lot of companies were not prepared for the pandemic, but how they react to it is really important. So my opinion is, I don't think we've got a surefire solution. We as in the community or the VoIP providers have a surefire solution. Sure, you could say, well, why didn't they have an alternative, you know, a failover site or something like that? That doesn't actually solve the problem. That's only a partial solution. That doesn't mean that it's going to mitigate the next attack. It's about how a company reacts, how the organization reacts to something like this, and what their thinking is, how they change their thinking. If they aren't, you know, more cybersecurity minded, if they're thinking, oh, it's a one-time thing, it's got mitigated and we'll be fine. Maybe you're okay with it, maybe not. For a lot of our clients, for example, they need the voice communication. It's not just email communication. If they're just doing email communication, maybe it didn't affect them as much because that's not how they're doing their sales, right? Or that's not how they're communicating with their clients. So it's really about how the communication is happening, and is VoIP a piece of that? Text communication, cell phone communication, right? Those are pieces that aren't necessarily a part of bandwidth.com, but they're indirectly affected. They may just be, it just might marginalize the outcome of, you know, what happened at bandwidth.com.
Yeah, and no doubt, if it doesn't say in the article here do we know if they paid whatever the ransom, because this is just another kind of ransomware. That maybe they didn't encrypt data, but you can DDoS somebody until the end of time until they pay you. So what do we know if they paid?
I am not aware one way or the other. I did reach out to Bandwidth yesterday, by the way, just to see what they would say about what had happened. And basically, they just, you know, as of 24 hours ago, they said there were still intermittent issues and they were dealing with them as quickly as possible. The CEO of the company posted a pretty brief little statement that you can get to from the bandwidth.com homepage. And that was really the first public acknowledgement that there was even a distributed denial of service attack happening. Privately, the company had been telling its customers that this was happening, but they said, we're not going public with this information because we don't want to say something that tips off the attacker somehow, makes them, you know, helps them out. So we're kind of keeping it under wraps. But they have now, in the last 24 hours, acknowledged that this is happening, and that's really as much as they're saying.
Poor them too. The nefarious always being nefarious. What can
I do want to add one more thing.
Sure, go ahead.
Something that's not really thought about, and because we're so integral to a lot of businesses, what does your client do, or what are you doing in terms of insurance? Because this, you know, an umbrella policy, for example, and business continuity, insurance would affect this, right? And if you went down or if your clients went down for a long enough time and this affected, let's say, their sales, guess what? They might be able to use that policy because of this.
That is a very interesting point. So everybody make sure you think about that and check whether or not that would be applicable to you in case of downtime like that. So interesting story. I'm sure we're going to follow it. I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit more about this as it goes. And I guarantee, like there was one earlier in the month, similar kind of thing. This is just another bigger one of this. And there will be another one, as Rich said. So keep an eye out for that, but I'll be prepared and have a plan in place for if you cannot pick up the phone. What that plan is, that's up to you. I don't necessarily recommend putting all your business communications through Snapchat, but hey, you never know. What you got to do what you got to do. Really excited coming up. We got a guest interview with Ken Pecot. He's the new COO of the 20. So we're going to get him on with us, and we're going to sit down. Will's going to join us for that, and it's going to be a great discussion. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Ready to grow your business in ways you haven't even imagined yet? Tune in to B2B Tech Talk, Ingram Micro's global podcast, to hear what's next in the IT space. Industry leaders, subject matter experts, and more share their valuable insights to provide listeners with the best growth opportunities, with some interesting stories sprinkled in along the way. Listen, subscribe, and follow B2B Tech Talk wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, because it's time to imagine more.
And welcome back here to part 2 of episode 201. Pretty exciting stuff. While Rich is at the 20s Vision Conference, who better to have on for our guest interview today than Ken Pecot, the newly appointed COO of the 20. Now, he's here to discuss his new role there, as well as operational pain points and the importance of KPIs in improving operational efficiency. Welcome, Ken.
Hey, thanks. Good to be here.
Great to have you on. Now, a KPI, that stands for Killer Penguin Investigation, correct?
Right.
So we're going to be investigating all of the murderous penguins that are out there. Is that a new focus of the 20?
No, I just call it Key Performance Indicator. Right. So,
that makes much more sense. Although there is a big problem with
metrics, whatever, but I just always go by Key Performance Indicator.
I like that better. It seems to make more sense for a company like the 20. So joking aside, Ken, great to have you here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your new role at the 20?
Well, first of all, I'm really excited to be here. It's a great opportunity. When I first heard about it, I met with Tim and, I have a lot of telecoms and IT experience. And so, the concept was extremely interesting to me. And asked him a lot of questions. We had a couple of meetings, one thing led to another. And, so super excited to be here and be part of it. Came at a time in my career when I was looking to do something, different and exciting and, just super excited to be here. I think it's an awesome opportunity to really change how we do IT delivery nationally to companies and small, medium businesses and give those MSPs a chance to grow larger and be more dominant in their market and be able to establish national footprints if they need to. So, and just change completely how we deliver service to companies. And so it's super exciting.
Yeah. And so what were you kind of doing before you took on this role?
Before I came here, I was working for a company that did a lot of network monitoring services, application performance, service assurance business. So that's what I've been doing for the last several years. I ran a big managed services team for them. We had a lot of very large enterprise clients at that company. But I've done many things in my career. I've done research and development, ran big engineering organizations to developed products. I've been in product management and brought products to market, done sales and marketing, spent some time overseas, internationally. So well-versed with international teams and business. But I've done manufacturing in my career, supply chain. So I've got a very broad background, which and a lot of time in services and operations. So bring a good diverse skill set to the company here. a lot of different kinds of experiences, everything from, $400 or $500 million businesses to big billion-dollar companies as well. So, but it's exciting to be here.
Cool. And so I just add a side question. In your discussions and conversations with Tim, how many times did he swear?
Did he swear? Well, when he was interviewing me, I don't think I heard him swear at all. Right. So he was not his best behavior. So. He must
have been trying to give a good wholesome impression, I suppose. Now Tim's a great guy. We've known him a long time. Fun stuff. So I want to turn it over to you, Rich, for a second to kind of talk a little bit about things about operational pain points and where we want to kind of take Ken throughout this interview.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I really wanted to take advantage of, as long as I'm here and Ken is here, I mean, you've filled a lot of different roles in your career at this point. But I think the reason Tim brought you into the 20, and I believe you're the first COO of the group, I mean, that's a new position here, is he, I know, wants to get very serious about operational excellence going forward. He really feels like that's one of the levers that will someday turn the 20 into a very valuable acquisition target. So he's really focused on operational excellence. You have a lot of experience in that. Coming in here, and you've really just been in this role, I know, a few weeks at this point. What is your impression about how sort of operationally efficient the average MSP is right now?
I guess based on what I've seen, there's a pretty big spectrum, a big broad spectrum. I mean, I think I've met with a lot of MSPs that are extremely well organized. They run a really good shop. They're being quite successful already, and they know what they want. And I think the benefits that the 20 bring are to help them grow, to be able to go after some larger clients and maybe go after clients that might have a national footprint. So there's a lot of benefits from them. On the other hand, there's probably also some smaller MSPs that need help from everything in terms of not just help supporting on service, but just hey, what kind of metrics should I be looking at? How should I run my business? Well, how do I do sales? How do I go acquire customers and get leads? Can you help me? Tell me what to do. Can you come in? And I've had so many people come up to me today. As a matter of fact, I've got a meeting later this afternoon with a smaller MSP, and he said, "Hey, I want to change everything about what I'm doing, and can you just sit down and talk to me about it? Like, what would you do first, or what would you look at first? Based on where he's at." So, I think it kind of runs the mix, and to me, there's a lot of power in sharing. When we can make the entire 20 group look like one corporation, one company that has a common delivery model, a common sales and go-to-market model, a common pricing model. That's very powerful, right? In terms of, not just delivering service and providing excellence and acquiring business, but then at some point in the future, when it comes time to do exit or do something different, there's an extremely strong leverage there, having that kind of scheme.
So before we move forward, I want to ask Will real quickly, because I thought you might have chuckled a little when I asked how operationally efficient is the average MSP. Just wanted to check before if you had a perspective on that.
So I think I'm going to have two answers. The first answer is there's a lot of very small IT providers that call themselves MSPs because it's an easy name, but operationally, the maturity isn't there for them to even really call themselves an MSP. People are not going to like that I'm going to say that, but I think if you're angry about that statement, you're probably just self-selected yourself as to what category you're in. And the reason for that is that a lot of MSPs got started because, hey, they were an engineer, they didn't like where they were working at, and decided, hey, I want to go off on my own. The real thing is that running an MSP isn't about technology. It's about running the actual business, the financials, the operations, the people management, the leadership, the vision, all of that stuff. How do you differentiate? And these are not things that every engineer can actually do, right? They need help. They need to be able to grow their network. I'm talking about people network, not like switches and hardware network, right? And so, I come from that background and I had to learn from that. And growing an MSP business is actually extremely expensive. You would think that, hey, I've got a computer, I can start fixing computers. That's not what an MSP business is about. That is what we would call a truck in a truck. It's a break fix provider, right? It's an old model. So if you have a lot of reoccurring revenue, like a large percentage of your revenue is reoccurring, okay, probably you can call yourself an MSP. But if you have a very small percentage of your revenue that's reoccurring revenue, I don't know if you can consider yourself an MSP. Maybe you're a hybrid, right? You're a VAR, and that's transitioning into an MSP. So operational maturity. If you're over $1 million, you might be an MSP. And how much of that is actual service versus resale? If a lot of your revenue is coming from resale, Office 365, Azure, hardware, desktop servers, etc. If most of your revenue is coming from resale, you're not an MSP.
Rich, I want to ask real quick, because we may be mixing words a little bit, but in my head, operational maturity doesn't always mean the same thing as operational efficiency. So Ken, can you comment on that a little bit? Like when you get even an operationally mature MSP that wants to join the 20, I would assume that there's still efficiencies left there to do, because they may not be super efficient. Or are those the same in your mind?
Well, I think sometimes the two go hand in hand. Sometimes younger companies that may not be mature are also not very efficient, for some of the reasons that Will talked about, just technical people learning about business things, right? I talked to a few people this week that said, hey, for the first 10 years I ran my MSP, I didn't even look at it. I ran it almost like a nonprofit. I didn't really even try to make money. I was just paying my own income and didn't look at it as a business, right? And they go, I wish I would have learned these things, from day one. And they had to kind of learn the hard way. And only in the last few years are they start to look at it. You could argue, well, that might have been they might have considered themselves a mature company because they've been around a while, but they might not have been very efficient, right? And then alternatively, I think that, you can have the opposite. I think you can have companies that actually do get out the gate pretty quick. They're pretty nimble. Maybe they got the right combination of technical and business acumen from the beginning. And they might be pretty small or immature from an organization because they haven't been around long, but they got a couple of really smart people running it, and they can be very efficient from the very beginning. So I think it depends. You can have both extremes, but certainly just because you're a mature organization doesn't necessarily mean you're necessarily an efficient organization. You might say, well, I'm making money, or I'm making money on my bottom line. Maybe my return operating margin is 10% or something. Well, maybe it ought to be 25 if you were really being efficient. So, I think that it can run both ways, right? You can definitely be mature and inefficient, or not mature but also efficient. So it's both.
Ken, you were talking before about the importance of metrics. And in the corporate world, which is where you spend a lot of time, that's pretty self-evident. They understand the role of metrics in running the organization. And what is the role of metrics in running an efficient MSP?
Well, first, let me say that I've been part of a lot of big organizations. Sometimes even big companies don't treat metrics or some things the right way either, right? So just, it doesn't mean just because you're a big company that, once again, that's that inefficiency thing. So, but, I think you get what you expect, right, in terms of results. And I think that, business owners of any kind, they need to have a set of metrics that really help them, guide them. One, to say, hey, am I attaining the goals that I'm trying to do? That's financial goals, it's growth. Maybe that's providing an income for me and my team. But they should also tell you when you're not doing the right things, when you're not hitting your objectives, and also give an indication of what things you need to fix, right? Because the worst thing you can do is okay, I'm missing, my revenue goals or my bottom line goals, but you don't know why. Okay, well, you're not going to know why unless you've got, well, to me, a successfully run company, if they've got a set of metrics in place, they should basically be telling them these are the areas that are falling apart, and it helps management make day-to-day decisions. You don't want to have to go, well, let me go dig into it after 6 months have gone by and things are already really off the rails. Ideally, you should know right when things are coming apart or off the rails, and you can take corrective action before it gets too bad. So it helps you understand where you are you attaining your goals? But then it also gives you this sort of dashboard indicators that say, okay, hey, there's a problem. Kind of like the dashboard of a car or something, right? If the check engine light comes on, chances are you better go figure out what's going on and do something about it. Or if your temperature thing's redlining, that's a problem. I got to do something about it.
The easy fix for that, though, is to put black tape over the check engine light. That way you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah. Well, just like on a car, if you do that on a car and you run it long enough, well, you're going to wake up one day and it won't start, or worse than that, you're going to have a breakdown in a place that is inconvenient for you. And same thing in a company. If you ignore the indicators at the wrong time, all of a sudden you're going to find yourself, worst case out of business, or maybe not being able to make payroll or something. So you got to pay attention to those things. And the start of it is, number one, having the right indicators in place to begin with. You got to start there.
So you sort of touched on this before. I assume the number of metrics that a given MSP is monitoring is going to vary, by the company and its size and so on. But in terms of the areas that those metrics might fit in, you mentioned finance before. I would assume there are service delivery metrics. What are sort of the categories or buckets of metrics that an MSP should be tracking?
Well, I kind of shared how I look at it, right? And when I look at, various businesses, to me, financial or that's important, right? You're there to make business, you're there to make a living and make money, right? So to me, some level of financial metrics are important. You got to have customers in order to make money. So having customers is important. Where's my money coming from within those customers? The product itself in a service business is the people and what you're delivering and the kinds of services that you deliver. I mean, you might be some, VAR sell-through about certain things, but, I'm really talking here about the service, and the services, the people, the product. The operations side is the how you do the business. This is how efficient you are at delivering, because you might have good people and be delivering a good service, and you might be making some of your revenue numbers, and you might have happy customers, but maybe you're not very efficient, and your cost is too high or something like that, right? And it's not as productive as you can be. That gets back to the well, I'm making some money, but you could be making a lot more money. And then I think the one that people often overlook is people themselves, to have real metrics around your team. I've seen a lot of good leaders in my career, put the wrong person in the wrong seat or the wrong position, and that causes a lot of issues, a lot of challenges. You put someone there because you like them, or maybe you trust them. You want to trust every employee, but you put the wrong person in the wrong seat and they fail. So good people metrics, happy employees, usually get the right people in the right seat. You get happy employees, good things start to happen, right? Because then even if you operationally have a bad day or some things go wrong, you got good people, they can take care of it. And that allows owners to also, take a vacation or take a break and not have to worry about the business. Like, hey, you know what, I'm in good shape because I got the right people. Right? So the right metrics are important. And the right metrics and people can be a lot of things. Depends on the size of your company. Do I have a succession? Like if this manager can't make it to work anymore, what do I do? Do I recruit somebody, ideally you've got people on the bench that you can move into those positions. So it's thinking about people as well. It's very important.
So earlier today, you gave a presentation at the conference here about KPIs, key performance indicators. And I mean, you know, you had maybe 60 minutes on stage to discuss a topic that requires more time than that. But what kind of advice, you know, introductory advice were you giving the folks at this conference about KPIs and you know, how they should embrace those in running the business?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I think one, it's important to have some metrics, right, about your business, you know, to be able to break it down into, you know, those 4 or 5 areas that are important, and to measure them and to make sure that you pick the ones that make sense for your business, to give you, okay, how am I doing against the goals, and give you feedback, hopefully as a leading indicator that when something's not going right, so that you can take action before it becomes a serious problem. You know, so I think the first message is, you know, you need to have metrics. You need to have some. You can't just be like, I'm in every day and I just provide IT services and I just do things, and then all of a sudden you go, man, I'm just not making enough money to feed my family. Why is that, right? So one is just the fact that you have metrics, right? The second, you know, to me, theme of the day was that, you know, putting together in the case of the service metrics is don't ever be satisfied with where you are at any given point in time. Always be looking to get better, you know, no matter what it is. It doesn't matter, you know, hey, I average solve cases in X number of minutes. Well, you know, how do you get 10% better? You know, and does that make your customers even more happy? You know, all of those things around efficiency. You know, if a technician can solve, you know, a number of cases a day, could I do some more automation that increase the overall productivity of the company, and so therefore I can take on more customers or more endpoints with the same number of people? That puts money in your pocket and makes the company more profitable. So continuous improvement to create that culture is important. And you know, I think finally I just talked about culture in general, about making sure. I'm a big believer in educating everybody on the team about what we're trying to get accomplished here, what are our business objectives. You know, and I say that, you say, well, it seems like a logical thing to say, but you'd be surprised. There's a lot of people that say, no, I'm gonna hide the financials or to hide the business objectives, and your job is just to come in and solve tickets every day. You know, that's your job. You just solve cases and whatever. But you know, I want to create, my view is I think you should create a culture where everybody understands the business objectives. They know exactly what their job, how that maps into what the company's trying to achieve. And then you teach them about when metrics tell you a certain thing, what to do. And they hold each other accountable for improving it, not the guy who's at the top, that they take ownership of it. You know, it's almost like, you know, the analogy I sort of gave today at the conference is like, think of a football team, right? They walk up to the line of scrimmage, they look across, the center's looking at how the linemen are lined up, and the receivers know what play they're going to call, and they're looking at where the defensive backs are, and they say, well, if this guy moves in, I go this way. If he moves back, I go that way. And the quarterback knows, you know, if he needs the audible at the last minute. So the team knows the playbook, right? And that's what, to me, good metrics do, is that eventually the team knows what to do. And I don't have to like micromanage them on a daily basis to do that. So to me, that was kind of my themes.
You know, it occurs to me as you're talking about that, and you know, and adopting metrics and making them part of the culture, making them available to the entire team. I mean, purely from a practical standpoint, I mean, it seems like there would have to be a dashboard tool of some kind where you are tracking the metrics and anyone on the team can see how the company is doing against this number or that number.
I mean, I agree. You know, it definitely helps if you have, you know, a good BI tool that you can, you know, that IT management can sort of slice and dice things the right way. You know, if I want to filter by, and like in my case, I want to be able to filter by an MSP to know if I'm on a call with a customer, so I know exactly how the service we're providing that MSP. And I want to actually some point get to the point where I allow those MSPs to be able to slice it and see how they're doing it to their customers. But on the floor, you don't really want each engineer spending time playing with dashboard metrics, right? So I'm a big believer in giving visual management close to where the team is that show the indicators so that they can kind of line up there every day. And that's updated every single day. It's not, let's update the metrics at the end of the month. It's daily, okay? Because that's how we're delivering service to customers daily, and you got to be able to course correct the minute something goes, beyond your level of acceptance of pain, right? You got to take action right away. And I want the team to learn. And a lot of the workforce I have today are millennials. They're younger folks. And, that's a generation that, really challenges to, why are we doing this? I have 5 of them myself, right? And so I know this. And, they're not like other generations where you just sort of came in and said, I just crank it out and do work every day. They want to know why I'm doing this. But there's magic when you start to explain to them the why this is important and what this is. It's incredible how they embrace it, because they're smart folks, right? They grew up in the digital age. They know they're not, they come to work going, hey, okay, I can do this. So they're very gung ho. So, the trick is just, but I think that works for every employee, but I think especially with the younger generation, making it very visual so they see it and they feel it, and then they take ownership, and that's when the magic happens.
Will, talk a little bit about the role KPIs play at your company and your management, and how you sort of learned to rely on those numbers.
So we started EOS. So for those of you that don't know, it's the entrepreneurial operating system over 2 years ago, probably rolling on 3 years now. And KPIs is the heartbeat of the company, right? So I'm not in the day-to-day. So how do I know if good things or bad things are happening, if we need to change direction, if we need to pivot? KPIs, the right KPIs, are what help me understand that and help the management team go, okay, maybe we need to start making some changes. Maybe we need to do something here, or maybe, hey, we need to staff more during certain times, during certain hours, or maybe we need to figure out, oh, we have clients that have, they made a change in their company, but we weren't told about it. And so we're failing there. So we can help them out. And that KPI is showing it. Sometimes 0.1% is an indicator, right? So we're going, this is what we've been at. And it's a consistent measurement, right? It's whether it's daily, hourly, but whatever it is, it's consistent. So when you look back, so it's like if you're on a weight loss program, right? You don't measure, in the morning and the next day in the afternoon, right? You measure at the same time every day, because the human body function very similarly at those times of the day. So you don't want to go in after eating a lunch and go, well, it's different from yesterday. Same thing is in our world, we have KPIs that we don't look at them except for we take that data from that specific time of day or that specific time frame. We don't change that, because otherwise we can't make decisions if we keep widening, spreading, lowering the average or whatever. Can't make decisions off of that. And then the reality is, kind of to Ken's point, we want to empower our employees to be able to make those decisions. So those KPIs get shared down. So we have management level KPIs, but then we also have service delivery KPIs. We even have individual KPIs. We have our people doing rocks. So it's kind of a 90-day goal to be able to go towards the longer term objectives of the company. And so every person has purpose. So to your fact of millennials, right? It gives them a sense of purpose as to what they can do, what they should be doing. And we allow them actually to kind of choose, to make their own, they get to choose really the KPIs kind of help direct that. And they go, oh, well, I can't think of everything. So it helps their innovation to innovate towards the company. It all circles back in empowering the employee and empowering management. So I don't have to be involved in every decision.
Unfortunately, Rich, we're going to have to stop there. We're unfortunately out of time, but it was a great interview, and I want to thank Ken for joining us on the show here and talking with us. Ken, if people want to learn a little bit more about you or learn or get in touch with you, contact you, learn more about the 20, where can they go? How can I do that?
You can just go to the 20 website, and I think there's ways to contact me through there, get my email, and happy to talk to anybody who wants to get to know me better.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being on. Well, hopefully we'll get you on again, and good luck at your new role there as COO of the 20.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. With that, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be joined on the other side with Will. Hopefully you can stick around and record part 3 with us. And we got lots of fun stuff ahead. You're not going to want to miss it. Stick around. We'll be right back. And we are back now with part 3 to wrap up episode 201 here. Really, really great interview with Ken. Exciting that he's taken that role, that the 20 is kind of thinking about operational efficiency and operational pain points. So great stuff. Rich, any takeaways from that?
Just that I will have a whole lot more information about the 20, where it is in its evolution, where Ken and what he's doing kind of fits into that. It's a very interesting kind of pivot moment, I think, for the 20 right now. And I will have an article on that. I'm probably actually going to put that in our January issue, so people are going to have to wait a little bit, but there will be more to hear about what's going on in this group.
And it'll be worth the wait for sure. Will, any takeaways, any thoughts?
You know what? My biggest thought around this is, wow, an alignment around core values and, the more mature operational thinking needed. And I loved what I heard.
Excellent stuff. The one takeaway that I have is that when I was thinking about operational pain points, I was trying to think of where did everybody really learn about what the different operational pain points are? And I like most people learned about operational pain points from the board game Operation, as most would. So what I want to do is I want to have you help me identify the different operational pain points in Operation. This will be a lot of fun. So did you ever play Operation as a kid?
Is it the one where you try to go inside of a little human person and it beeps if you hit the sides?
Yes, that's the one. Okay. That's the one. Isn't that kind of operate? That's where you learned about operational pain points, right?
Now that I think about it, I guess that would be a place where I learned operation. I never thought about it that way, but sure.
All right, so here's the game that we're going to play real quick. So there are 12 operational pain points in the game of Operation. Let's see how many of them you remember. Go.
God. I guess it would be the head, liver, heart.
But there were particular. The only one I'm remembering, Matt, is Charlie Horse. Wasn't that one of them?
Okay, yeah, you guys can team up. That's fine. There was the Charlie Horse. That's one.
This is
something involving the elbows. Am I close?
Not wishbone.
Wait,
it was wishbone.
Yeah, wishbone is number 2. Ding, 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 ding.
Funny bone or something like that.
Funny bone. That's number 3.
Geez.
You're on a roll.
This is like 30 years ago.
We like to put our guests to the test.
Wow, you're putting me on the spot here. Oh my gosh. Not Achilles. That was the Charlie Horse.
There wasn't a hamstring or something, was there?
There was a rubber band. That was the thing you had to take out.
Okay.
Okay, I'll give you guys a couple clues to see if you can get a few more of them. There was something on the knee. What was it?
That wasn't the Charlie Horse?
No, that was lower.
Oh, okay.
That was lower. Holy cow. Boy, you are.
There was also a basket in it. What was in the basket?
Oh, that is
the bread basket.
The bread basket. There you go. We got 4. 30 seconds. We'll see if you can get any more. There was a heart, but what was specific about the heart?
Oh, jeez.
Broken heart.
It was a broken heart. This guy was very sad. Maybe you got dumped by somebody. I don't know.
Yeah,
But it's a lot of surgery to have it once. Did they actually do it this way? You know, like, hey, we're going to operate today on 12 different things. So, hey, you got like 4 or 5 of them on your own. That's really good. So here's the ones that we missed. We missed the Adam's apple. We missed the butterflies in the stomach. He also had spare ribs. I usually like those barbecued.
Right.
But they had that. He had writer's cramp.
That one
I don't remember that one.
That one was in the wrist. Yeah. And then it looked like it was shaped like a pencil. I think you guys got, do we get butterflies in the stomach?
Mm-hmm.
There was the ankle bone connected to the knee bone. That was the rubber band. Water was on the knee,
Right.
and the wrenched ankle, which was shaped like a wrench.
I remember that one.
Yep. Classic stuff. So you got 4. We'll give you 5 out of 12. That's not a passing grade, Will, but after 30 years, that's pretty good.
Yeah, you really put me on the spot there. That is something, I play other kinds of games. That's one of the games. I play the game of life at this point. That's maybe when I have kids one day, I'll go back to that if they still make that game.
Oh, they still do. You got to play it. It's still loads of fun as well. So, Will, I want to thank you so much for coming on to join us. We're going to say goodbye to you in a minute, but first, Rich, real quick, if you can, tell us what we might have missed and what might be coming down the road.
Well, every Friday, the best place to catch up on what you might have missed is our In Case You Missed It post written by ChannelPro's own James Gaskin. He's going to be talking this week about some new risk assessment software from Trend Micro, some new smart tank printers from HP, and no kidding, a hamster who is outperforming the stock market. You want to hear the details on that. Coming up next week, our show, we are doing a conference, ladies and gentlemen, in Raleigh, North Carolina. So we will actually not have another episode of the show for you next week because Matt and I are going to be very busy at that show. But if you are anywhere near Raleigh, North Carolina, please go to events.channelpronetwork.com and sign up. There is room still for you at the show. It's both virtual and in person. We hope to see you there. VMworld is taking place next week, and Exabeam is doing its Spotlight partner event next week too.
Sounds like a lot. So folks, we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. But if you're in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, please join us. Come down to the North Point Hilton. Details are on events.channelpronetwork.com. Something like that. It's a Hilton there. Come and join us. If you can't make it, or if you're a little too far away from Raleigh to make it, join us online. We're going to be simulcasting that event at the same time. So join us that way. Events.channelpronetwork.com. You'll get all the details. Join us. You're going to get a lot out of it, and it'll be a lot of fun as well. So we'll see you for that. Will, if anybody wants to learn a little bit more about you and get in touch with you, learn more about spot migration, where can they go? How can they find you?
Well, you can either contact us on our website, spotmigration.com. Main phone number is right there on the site. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com. I think it's /Will Foret.
Awesome. So check him out there. Follow ChannelPro Network on the socials as well. We're on all of them, so go find us there. And of course, the best thing to do is subscribe to the ChannelPro Weekly Podcast. That way, every week you won't have to think about it, whether or not we're doing a show that week. It'll just magically appear on your device. It's the greatest thing. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the comment button, just go to YouTube and hit buttons. That's how it works. But like us there and leave a comment that we want to hear from you. Podcast@channelpronetwork.com is the email address. If you have any comments you want to give us, we want to hear them. And if you have anything you want to add that we might have missed on the show, we'll send them in. We'll include them in not next week's or episode 202, whenever that is. And Rich, what else? Do you have any other events coming up?
For us, our events, or
no, for where you're going. Where are you going next?
Oh, well, I'm going to be at our show next week. I'm actually going to be at a conference pretty much every week between now and Thanksgiving, except one. So there are a bunch. Kaseya's got an event. Acronis has an event. And you know what? Real quick, you're giving me 2 seconds here. I'm participating in 2 sessions at the Acronis Cyber Fit Summit. In Miami, latter end of October, and boy, I hope to see people there too. You can go to the ChannelPro Network social media feeds on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and get more information about that. Get a link to go through and register, and it would be great to run into you there.
That'd be awesome. And with Rich running around, you're going to read about his exploits. Where do you go for that? ChannelProNetwork.com is the website. There you'll find all of his news, articles, more information, resources, white papers, downloads, all kinds of stuff that'll help you make your business better. Will Foret knows about it. He's been to the site. He downloads that stuff. He reads the articles. That's why he's so smart. You can be smart like Will. That's what you got to do. ChannelProNetwork.com. And with that, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you all in episode 202 in a couple of weeks. See you then.